So I'm here at the port in Almería, waiting to get on the ferry to start the African leg of my homeless journey that YouTube has blessed me with, sharing my adventures, my life, my homelessness, my survival, whatever you want to call it. Call me a nomad, call me vagabond, call me a homeless bum, call me a faker. All these things get called to me all the time. I don't care which one you choose. I know you guys enjoy watching my content. Stick around for the journey. Africa next. So what do I carry? Being a homeless person that lives on his bike traveling the world. And I did start off technically homeless. I lost my accommodation in London nearly 4 years ago now. And that put me on the streets for 3 years until YouTube monetized my content at the end of last year. And since then I've been able to travel the UK through winter last year, which my homeless winter survival series shows, and went over from Calais to Dunkirk, where I had the French Connection series that took me down all the way to Montpellier and into Spain, where the Spanish saga started. Now I'm in Almería, and from here I'm heading to Morocco, Africa, for the African League, the Midnight Express Saga. Some of you may be familiar with some of my previous work, such as day one of homeless winter survival, or the iconic gave everything away and lived on the Mediterranean coast. My name's Kiwi, and I am homeless. And since YouTube monetized me at the end of last year, I've been traipsing around this part of the hemisphere. Now I'm in a little place down on the southern coast of Spain called Almería, at the port, waiting to get my ferry over to Africa, where the African leg of the journey, of the adventure of my life shall continue. I'll give you a bit of a backstory, but I'm also going to show you what stuff I'm taking, because it's the stuff that's been with me pretty much since day one, with a few additions and a few subtractions. My bike, my steed, suffers quite a bit for this. The maintenance is never ending. It goes on and on. I've just recently put on some new front forks, and a new bottom bracket has gone on, along with the usual maintenance that happens, which is, you know, the running gear, the chain, the sprockets, the cassette, the derailleur, brake pads, the list goes on and on. It is a continual upkeep. Besides the money from YouTube, I get quite a bit of help from the people that watch my videos by way of support via my Buy Me a Coffee and PayPal. And I've got a Patreon channel which I put on a little bit more content. And if it wasn't for the extra help, I would not be able to keep that bike, my steed, in tip-top condition. Forks in point, they had quite a catastrophic failure not too long ago, where the stanchion at the top actually cracked in two, making the forks useless. If it wasn't for the extra help that I could dip into on one of those, you know, those three support channels that were there, I'd probably still be stuck back. I can't even remember what place it was now. It was about a week or two ago that that happened. But if it wasn't for that, I still would be stationary. So that is just brilliant to see the love that comes from me sharing what I do. I'm going to go through what I'm taking, why I take it, why I keep it, it's usually why I think I need it. There is some stuff here that is there just in case. I think that's the old Boy Scout in me. Be prepared, dib, 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 and all that. Let's get into it. What happened to get me in this situation? What happened nearly 4 years ago now, it was. And I have mentioned this before. I've even done a community post on this. Touched on it briefly here and there through the videos. It's, but yeah, I mean, people ask this question, you've got to sort of give them a bit of slack, I suppose, because they've obviously not watched all the videos or kept up to speed with what I've shared, you know, so fair play. What happened? Well, like anything, you know, you try and get things for the best price possible, and my living situation and rent in London back then was income wasn't the best, so I tried to get rent as cheap as possible. And through a friend of a friend of a friend, there was a room available in this block of flats with this guy that owned the flat, and he was giving me a good price each month for cash, no contract. Obviously, if you go down the road of contracts and doing everything above board, then you've got things like deposit to take care of, you've got fees, then you've got, but then the other side of the other side is you've got stability, you've got security. If they want you to leave, there's a process you go through that gives you a fair amount of time. As it turned out, because there was no contract and it was cash and it was a good price, 1 week it was just like, can't have you here anymore, see you later. It wasn't anything to do with anything that was done. I think it was basically just a clashing of personalities at the end of the day. I mean, I've got my issues and he had his issues as well. It was a case of just having to go the separate ways, really. You know, no animosity towards his decision. Just one of those things, you know, when you're living like sardines in a 2-bedroom flat, it just gets a bit much sometimes, you know. Yeah, and I kept holding my job for a while, but that got put to rest as well, not so long after. No more than 2 months after, anyway. And I carried on doing a little bit of work when I lost that. Just picked up a few jobs here and there for myself. Delivered some flowers for a florist that I approached. Just on occasion, wasn't that brilliant. It wasn't enough to get by on, you know, but it was a little bit extra to fill in. And then there was the old Italian boy that I used to put his street kitchen together for. That was an all right gig. That was 3 days a week. That was towards the end. And I had another job as well. I used to work for Wetherspoons, doing maintenance for them whilst I was homeless. I remember I started in the new year, and it was a 6 o'clock start as well. Oh, that was a baptism, that one, I tell you, man. 6 o'clock start. You're waking up in Regent's Park at 5 o'clock to get the brew on, get the ice off your bivvy bag and your sleeping bag, get defrosted, get some hot fluid in you, maybe chuck some porridge on the stove as well, and then tootle off up to Wetherspoons and do a half-day shift fixing shit or building shit. That was a good job, that, but I think they knew my skill set, so I think they were using me basically at the beginning of the year in the slow time, because it was winter, to get the place looking good, 3-month trial. And when the 3-month trial came to an end, it was like, oh yeah, no, we've decided not to continue the employment, which they've got every right to do. You know, and again, I mean, maintenance jobs these days, when you've got a good skill set, they just don't pay. You know, and the wage wasn't that, but it was a little bit above minimum wage. So they're getting, you know, they're basically getting tradesmen's work. And I'm a jack of all trades, you know, I can do anything. I did basic electrical there, I did painting, I did building, did lining of the chiller. I did all sorts of stuff. I got my dad to thank for that, because my dad's pretty much the same. He tackles anything, and I used to watch him when he was doing it when I was younger. Chip in and give a hand, and then, you know, obviously my trade was a plumber, which encompasses roofing, and anyway, so that's a whole different that's another story and another life, that. What else do I get asked a lot? I'll come back to you in a moment. Have I considered getting myself an e-bike? I used to have an e-bike many years ago, and it was very nice. I lived in Bath at the time, in Somerset. Quite steep hills around there, and it was all right. But as soon as it runs out of power, you've got to pedal through the gearbox on this particular one, and it was like pedaling through porridge or treacle. Not very fun at all. It took overnight to charge the battery. I'm sure things have moved on since then, but my lifestyle is just not conducive to me having a overnight charge every night. And then the other issue is being restricted to the amount of the amount of distance you can do any day, any given day. So yes, I have considered it. Yes, I did have one. Would I have another? No. Almería, Spain. I think that's the boat I'm getting at 10 o'clock. I think it is, I'm not 100%. Why don't I get a trailer? This comes up a hell of a lot. I really don't want a trailer. I have used one in the past when I was gigging around festivals and event type work. Chuck it on the back of my bike and tootle off. Being homeless, it was perfect job because they provide a lot of camping on a lot of these sites, and it was a case of chucking everything on the bike and the trailer and tootling off. They're all right if you're going in a straight line on tarmac. Trailers, beautiful, wouldn't have an issue with that. If my life involved straight, flat tarmac roads, no problem. I'd quite happily have a trailer. But unfortunately, that's just not the case. There's off-road, there's hills, there's bumpy ground. It wouldn't work. I know because I've tried. So let's put that one to bed as well, shall we? Okay, so I've never really been a big fan of gear videos. I mean, the idea is good in theory when you've got a YouTube channel, but I mean, in the scheme of things, they never seem to do that brilliantly. They never seem to do too well at all, gear videos. They're a very niche. So this is going to be combined with my journey across the water, as it were. I've not planned any of this. There's no storyboard for this gear video. I've just unpacked my bike, laid it all out, and I'm going to repack it and tell you what I've got. It's not even going to be in any particular order, so let's get on with it. There's the warning, that's the caveat, yeah? So this is my sewing kit, and I have some snare wire in there as well. So it's a sewing kit, first aid kit as well in there. That, do it the Irish way, that goes in the very bottom because it forms a nice little cushion down the end there. That there is a bivvy bag, which I'm not really using too much these days. I used it every night in winter, but at the moment, no use for it, but it stays with me. This here is a slingshot and 6mm ball bearings in there. Handy piece of kit to have. Again, don't really use it that much. Same with the live straw water filter. That's sitting in a weak solution of salt water, or weak salt water solution, just to keep it, because I have used it in the past. Keeps the filter wet and keeps it antimicrobial as well. This sort of stuff lives in this side. This here is my bushcraft stuff, so I've got a folding barco saw and also a Whitby bush knife in there, along with my fire blow stick. That is various tent pegs and paracord. Hammock, essential. I was using that today actually, strung between a couple of palms. Just bits and bobs that I've taken out of my bag there. There's a knife sharpener, there's a spare front derailleur, there's just bits, probably about nearly a kilo there. I just wanted to lose it out of my bag. So little bits you keep in the top of your bag. That is that side. Cooking stuff. Trangia with spirit burner. 2 cans of gas. Trusty jet boil. Fry pan. Bush box. All this lives in the other side. That's a for the tyres, for the wheels. The front carry system here, the handlebar bag, and also the fork bags, they predominantly hold all my food items, which are, at the moment, more like a medicine chest than food items. Got my honey for my tea, got a spare onion, because you always need a spare onion. Pork gelatin sheets, the prized possession of Yorkshire tea bags, Bovril, garlic cloves, tin of tuna, salami sticks, dates, olive oil. I have some white pepper, some black pepper, some herb salt, honey and garlic mix. That's my medicine, and that's some stew that I've made and sealed in a jar there. So it's like an emergency food for me, is that I can just chuck it in my pan. It's got all sorts in there, full of goodness. The stuff that helps me film as well. So I've got 30,000K power bank there. I've got about 5 other power banks as well that I keep in there, which now that I've got the 60 watt flex solar, that's a charger solar panel, I'm not really using my other power banks, so that's probably some weight that I can discard now. I'm only really using my 30 and a 20 and a 10. Even the 10s, I'm not really using it because the weather, I mean, I can sit down for an hour, chuck that in the sun, hooked up to the power bank, and it's putting in another 15 to 20%, so I'm just keeping it topped up all the time. It's really, I rave that solar panel, it's bloody awesome. Various bits of clothing as well. Buffs, these are worth their weight in gold. I'm forever losing these things. I leave them hanging on my handlebars when I'm not using them, and they get nicked by some unscrupulous buggers, or they get blown off. Don't know what goes on with them. I go through maybe about 1 a month, so whenever I see them, I bought a couple in Benidorm. Another very important piece of kit I find as well is the orange high-vis vest. I've used that quite a few times, especially in Spain and France with the tunnels. I got that when I was traveling down the A1 through winter, and I just nipped into a business. It was a cargo business, something like that. I just said, man, have you got a spare high-vis I can have? Because this A1 dual carriageway is doing my head in. Horrible to ride. I felt like I needed to stand out more, so they gifted me that, which was really good of them. In fact, I'll give them a bit of a shout out because their name is still on the back here. They were very kind to me on that winter's day. There you go, Novus Environmental, part of the Vet Speed family. Novus, if you're listening, thank you. I still have it. Yeah, it was a good tip that. I forget the name of the channel that I got that tip off. They were once a really good channel. They were producing some very nice videos, but I'm not sure what happened with them. It was like a mental switch in their collective heads got switched, and they started to get a bit antsy of other channels and let it be known publicly how they felt with the way that they acted. And since they've done that, their channel's popularity seems to have dived to the point now where I think they've pretty much given up. I wish I could remember the channel name, but anyway, if I do remember, I'll mention it. But it was a good tip that they had there with the orange hivers. It's a shame because, like I said, they used to do some very good content, but I think jealousy and envy got the better of them at the end of the day. The other load of gear that I find is essential as well, I listened to some good tips that was coming up in the comment section, and I got myself some Skin So Soft by Avon. This is for the mosquito problem, and some DEET roll-on. It's the jungle DEET. So I've got 2 bottles of the Skin So Soft in there, and I've also got 2 more of the DEET. And I've also got 1 of each of them on hand that I keep in here, along with my toothbrush, a charging cable, secateurs, always a good piece of kit to have when you're living outside. What else can I quickly show you in here? I've think, oh, this is just a very basic toolkit that I keep handy instead of having to unstrap and go into my main one as well, which has got all the heavier tools in there. I've got some citronella oil, I've got some citronella incense in there, citronella coils, some alcohol citronella, not to drink but to rub on your skin, various bits of citronella, and for the Zika virus that I think you get off the tiger mosquitoes, there's some other stuff in there as well. Yeah, cloves as well, good for when my throat sometimes gets a bit scratchy and inflamed, being in different parts of Europe, and I find sucking on a clove, it's antimicrobial, antiviral, and it's also got a little numbing effect as well, so it takes away the tickly cough, clears it up in a few days. Good tip that. Water carrier, I think it's about a 5 litre water carrier. That fishing reel to go with my fishing rod, that is kept in that ABS 70mm diameter tube up there to protect it, along with two 2-metre aluminium poles as well, which I use on my tarp, which is part of my sleep system in here. That's just a bunch of spare clothes. That's my tarp. If you're not familiar with my sleep system, I've got a video on it. I go through everything that I've got in there. That's my bedroom, my lounge, my man cave, my study. I can do everything with that there. That gives me shelter, warmth and comfort. So there you have it, folks. Everything you saw on that table there is now on my bike and in my bag. And the bag is not that sort of heavy, really. It's probably lighter than it was when I started off. That's for sure. I'd be lucky if that weighed 15 kilo. Yes, not even 15 kilo. I got to put my milk in there yet. But yeah, comes together all right, doesn't it? Comes together really good, really well. I'm quite pleased with that. Africa. It's going up for 10:30. It's happening. Africa in 12 hours. Besides the hiccups with the maintenance on the bike, I'm not sure what the trepidation was earlier. I had 2 or 3 days there of just stagnation. I'm not sure why that happened, where it came from, or why it seems to have disappeared now. I was planning on getting a day boat during the day to see the sights, basically, on the ocean on the way over. I did look at the timetable this morning and there's actually no boats running tomorrow, and I think it was possibly to do with being in Almería for a full day with the option of being able to go, which was turn the key for me slightly. Follow him. Gracias. That would be a nice mode of transportation, I think. There's a guy there, even got a spare tyre strapped to the side of his bike. And they are probably carrying as much weight as what I've got on here, I would say. Certainly be a lot easier travelling that way. Oh yeah, straight in. just been told to get off and push. That looks like we'll get our own little secure room in here. So this will be my second late night in a row after last night's attempt at being, well, it was an attempt at beginning to sleep. Sorry, my thought patterns are a bit messed up because it is late. I mean, we're after 11 o'clock now. And I only slept for a few hours last night with getting moved on from that park, and by the time I got over the other side of Almería, I was pretty shattered, and even that was a broken sleep because there was quite a bit of public milling around where I decided to lay down for the evening. So I'm just going to have a quick drink, and then I'm going to spread my mat out, probably just under the table here, going down that way. And you know, I've got earplugs, sweet, and I've got my eye mask. Well, eye mask, it's a ear warmer thing that a family friend bought for my kit. I guess we'll shut eye. Oh, I'll see you in the morning pulling into Africa.